Have you ever wanted to make a repeating pattern, but then didn't because it felt like magic, or at least a lot of math? If so, you came to the right place. Or video. Or I guess YouTube, which is a place, not really a place, but we come to YouTube to learn how to do everything, right? Regardless, I'm glad you're here, and making a pattern isn't hard. It's actually a lot of fun. Also, side note, my voice is kind of terrible. I'm sorry about that. I have allergies, and I also have a 1-year-old, which means I'm sick all the time. So I did say that patterns weren't magic, but it still felt like magic the first time I learned how to make one. And after that, I couldn't stop making them. It was just non-stop patterns. I think the reason I like them so much is because I've always had this desire to fill up a page with lots of little stuff. It's something I did ever since I was little. And with a pattern, it's not just filling up a page, it's filling up infinity. I also love that the process turns a bunch of silly little drawings into something cooler. Like this iPad case. That I'm going to give away to one of you. I'll tell you more about that later, but for now, let's get back to why you're here. In the time that's gone by since I learned how to make patterns, it's gotten a lot easier. In this video, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to make patterns using Adobe Fresco and Photoshop. I'll be using Adobe Fresco on my iPad to create the art for the pattern. In the first technique, we'll be using Photoshop to turn that art into a repeatable tile. The Photoshop part is the main event here, so if you want to create your art in a different way, whether that's in Procreate or traditionally, as long as you can scan it in and bring it into Photoshop, this first technique will work for you. The second technique we'll do just on the iPad using Adobe Fresco. So let's get into the first one and then we'll talk about the second one after that. Okay, I'll meet you on my iPad. You'll notice my document is a square. Although your tile doesn't have to be a square, it does make things a little easier when you're first learning about the process. Another tip is to choose a size that has an even number in pixels. My document is 4,000 by 4,000 pixels. Because this video is about making a pattern, I did most of my drawing ahead of time. I like to try to fit my images together tightly like a puzzle. The key for this first part is to draw a bunch of stuff in the center of your document without touching any of the edges. Some people like to loosely work in a diamond shape. That tends to give you roughly the same amount of space for the second part of this. And what I mean by that is this drawing that we have here is going to get split up and it's going to leave a hole in the middle that we're going to have to fill with more drawings. Just like the hole in my heart that I fill with little drawings. I'll usually add little embellishments to fit small spaces, like the extra flame pieces. You'll usually see this little ghost character because it's easy to squeeze him into awkward spaces. Once you're satisfied with your initial drawings, you can exit out of this document. If you're not working in Fresco, you'll want to save your image and then open it up in Photoshop. Okay, let's hop over to my computer. Okay, so I'll close out of my image in Fresco, put my iPad down, and now on my computer I will open up Photoshop, and you'll see our image is right there, ready to go. So I'll just click on that, it'll load it from Fresco, and there we go. Now we have our file. So the first thing we want to do is confirm our image size in pixels. Because we set this in Fresco, I'm pretty confident, but if you did your artwork some other way, you just want to check because it could mess up the next step. So I'm going to go up here to image and then image size and confirm our size in pixels. So if this doesn't say pixels, you want to change that to pixels. And then you'll see we have 4,000 by 4,000. So what we're going to need to figure out is half of our width and our height. So this is why I suggested using a square, because you only have to remember one number. So half of 4,000 is 2,000. Yeah, we got it. So let's remember 2,000. I'll try to remember it. You try to remember your number. So the key to making a repeatable pattern is to cut up your image in halves, horizontally and then vertically. If we pulled guide here and a guide here, we would need to cut it in half down the center, cut it in half horizontally. So what would need to happen is this half would need to go over here, and this half would need to go over here. Top half would need to go to the bottom, and then the bottom half would need to go to the top. That's a little confusing though. But the good thing for you, and for me, and for everyone, is that Photoshop made an effect to just do this for us without having to do any of the manual maneuvers. So before we do that, I'm gonna go over to my layers and I'm going to duplicate it just in case we mess something up and need to come back to it, I always like to duplicate things to be safe. I'll turn off that duplicated layer and select the copy, and I'm gonna go up to the top to filter, and then all the way down to other, and then all the way down to offset. Here, you'll see our image got all split up, and we'll just wanna confirm that it did it correctly. This already has 2000 here because this is usually the size I make patterns with, so that's what I used last time. But if yours is a different size, you'll wanna plug it in here. Again, this is half of your height and half of your width in pixels. And again, my image is 4000 by 4000, so we need 2000 by 2000. And then you wanna choose wraparound if it doesn't default to that. So I'll hit OK, and this is our repeatable tile. And this here is the space that's left over that we need to fill in to have it be a complete image. So if you remember me saying some people like to work in a diamond shape because it leaves you about equal space, this is what I was talking about. So if you worked in a diamond, this would be more tapered on the outsides of the diamond shape, so you'd have equal amount of space to draw in from what you did in the first half. Before we go back and fill in the middle part, I always like to test to make sure it repeats properly, just in case I did something wrong. I'm gonna duplicate this again, just to use as a test, turn off the original, and then I'm just gonna do Command T to transform, and then just shrink this down a bit, and then duplicate that layer, move it over. Looks like the horizontal is perfect. And let's merge these together and do Command E, duplicate that so we can test the height. As you can see in the middle, this is our original drawing. It's obviously more noticeable now because we didn't fill in this other area, but this is a repeatable tile. Okay, so now that we know that this works fine, I'm gonna go ahead and delete the test images and then turn back our outer area. I'm gonna save this. And now I'll just go back to my iPad and my file will be updated with this section, and then I can draw in the middle part. So I'll see you back at the iPad. Okay, so now that we're back in Fresco, you'll see that our file is already here, ready to go. So we'll open this up. You'll see we've got our two layers. We've got the one that we sliced up in Photoshop, and then we've got our original drawing, just in case we still want that for something. So the next step here is to go in and fill in this empty area. So typically I'll just draw some new things dictated by the amount of space that's left over. But because this is a tutorial about making patterns, I'm gonna skip ahead of that and add in some pre-drawn little things to stick in there. So here's some more random doodles that I did. We're gonna use these to place them around the space that's left over, hoping that they'll work. And if not, I'll add in some other embellishments to try to fill the space. So I'm gonna turn these off. I'm gonna turn back on part of our tile. Okay, so now that I have this back up, I'm gonna go ahead and select some of these random little illustrations that I made and try to fill in the negative space that's left over. The easiest thing to do would be to start with the big stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this Robin Hood thing and try to figure out a spot to put this. Maybe we'll just stick it right there. That actually looks like it'll work pretty well. All right, off to a good start. What else was pretty big? I think this pretty good lettering treatment was pretty big. What about over here next to Robin Hood? I like this spot because the G, the bottom of the G comes down into that negative space left over from the lightning bolt. Let's grab this thing over here. And I wonder if we could get this to, oh yeah, look at that. That's perfect. This G, it goes right in there. Another G saving the day. I always say, when in doubt, grab the heart that's also a butt. This fish is a great example of how when you draw a whole bunch of stuff, it doesn't matter if one of them is stupid. Look how stupid this fish is. I hate you. I hate you. All right, that is pretty good, but there's still some spaces that I'm not crazy about. So I'm gonna go in and add a few more things to fix it up. An easy thing we could do is make this okay lettering, like 3D sort of. So let's draw like a drop shadow thing and bring it right down into that space. All right, that's one problem area solved. We've got this little space here. Maybe he can be responding to the thumb. Maybe he can say, not me, in response to who cares. So let's make a bubble to fill that space. Put a tail on this bubble, pointing at his mouth. I'm gonna make a new layer to do the lettering, just in case I mess up the spacing, which happens often. And then a period because he's serious. Instead of making that black, let's go with this dark blue color and merge that down. We got this space up here. Oh, this is an easy one. What do you think we're gonna do? Where there's a butt, there's a fart. That's what I always say. So let's make a fart here. So that's the toot cloud itself, but now we need the toot trail. And some toot lines, some tutelage. Then maybe some toot speckles, toot particles, tuticles. We've got this space right here. I think maybe it needs a lightning bolt, mainly because this is pointy over here. And I just feel like it'll fill the space pretty well. And I was right. This fish has some gaps over here, but it's a fish, so it's wet, so we can have some little splashies. All right, so this down here is tricky, but what we need to remember is what's gonna happen down here is just the top repeating again. So up here we have a butt and a fart. So maybe here we can put the sound effect for the fart. Before we do that, we need to color in our fart cloud, which I forgot to do. So I'm gonna make a new layer, grab the yellow, instead of white. You would think maybe a cloud would be white, but no pun intended there. It's a stinky cloud. And everyone knows that stinky clouds are either yellow or green. And we don't have green in this pattern, so we're using yellow. The number 2 choice for stinky cloud. We've got this area over here. Since this is a storm cloud, because it's got lightning coming out, maybe we'll have a rain coming out of this. Ooh, we've got a big area over here. Let's give this ghost a ghost friend. We've got a moon here, so let's just do a couple stars. And maybe some of this. Is this worm blood? I don't know. I think it is, because this worm got split in half. But don't be sad, because I think I remember this from childhood, that when a worm gets cut in half, it becomes two worms. So it's sort of beautiful. I don't know if that's real. If you know if that's real, let me know in the comments, because I'm curious. I think that's pretty good. There's just one little space over here that I'm looking at, and I'm thinking I'll just put some little motion lines. Now we have a full pattern tile. So let's test it out. Let's merge this all together. All right, I'm gonna duplicate this layer so we don't mess up our tile by moving it down to check it out. So I'm gonna turn off that layer, go back to this one, and then let's just make this smaller. And let's duplicate it. Look at that, that's pretty cool. Let's merge those together. Duplicate this. And look at that. Pretty cool. All right, you wanna see a super easy way to make a pattern just using Fresco on your iPad? We'll do that now. Okay, if you just wanna make a simple repeating pattern and you don't care about making it as crazy dense as possible and filling in every little gap or having a million different things in your pattern, let me show you a way where you can make a repeat pattern in a matter of seconds. So all you need to do is have some separate little images on their own layers. At the moment, the max is 4, but who knows, that might expand and you may have more options in the future. But currently, as of this recording, you can only have 4. So you're gonna go up to the top right, click on the export button, and then go to publish and export. And then over on the left, you'll see capture pattern. And this is gonna open up Adobe Capture. If you don't already have it, it'll probably prompt you to download it, but Adobe Capture is a free app and does a lot of cool stuff that I encourage you to check out. So here you'll select everything that you want in your pattern. So I'm gonna select the 4 little drawings that I have, and then I'm gonna hit done. So it'll automatically put your images into a pattern template, and this already is a repeating pattern, which is kind of cool. But we can go ahead and make this better and make it fit together a little bit more. So there's a few default options. If you choose this menu thing on the side, you can choose the shape that it's based around, and just doing that will sort of change things too. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the freeform option. This lets us have full control over what goes where. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the pig, move that over, and I'm gonna base the pattern around this rainbow thing because it's sort of the biggest item. Actually, let's use this shape. I feel like this will be better for 4 for some reason. Let's put that like that. Tuck this closer lettering, a little bit smaller. And then let's just make the pig a little bit smaller. So a lot of this is just a little bit of finagling and moving things around, trying to get them to not overlap. Maybe rotate that, there we go. We'll rotate this pizza slice. Cool, that's pretty good. Now, as you can see, that fits together much better. And we have this eternity pattern. So now we can just hit save. And you can save this right to your Creative Cloud files. So that is all saved and ready to go. You'll be able to find it in your Creative Cloud files, in the pattern here. You can export it as an SVG or whatever you want, or a pattern tile, and that's that. Okay, back to this iPad case giveaway. So, it turns out doing a giveaway on YouTube is a lot more difficult than I thought. The first thing I need to do is avoid breaking the YouTube guidelines, so I need to tell you that this is all on me. This is not a YouTube endorsed giveaway. I'm just giving you this iPad case that belongs to me, that I purchased myself as an example to check out the quality. I'm supposed to tell you the reason I'm doing this contest is I thought a giveaway would be a nice way to boost the engagement. Also, I need to give an exact timeline for this contest. So the contest starts on the day this will be posted, which will be October 4th, 2022. And the contest will go for 1 month, which means it will end on November 4th, 2022. Now, entering the contest is tricky as well because there's not an easy way to contact you directly on YouTube. The first thing I thought was, I could have you sign up for my mailing list, but then from what I hear, there's tons of accounts that just like target contests, so I'll get a ton of spam email addresses, so I don't want to do that, but you should sign up for my mailing list anyway. I don't use it a ton. I'm hoping to start using it monthly, but back on topic. I think the easiest thing to do would be for you to subscribe to my channel, number one. Obviously, I'm trying to build this up here. And then like take a screenshot of you being subscribed and then DM it to me on Instagram at Chris Piasek. It's a little complicated, but I feel like it's the easiest way to do it for now. Maybe I'll do this kind of thing in the future, so if you have some suggestions for a better way to do a little giveaway, let me know in the comments, because this is a big learning curve. So again, this is the iPad. It is for the iPad Pro 12.9, and it's the 5th generation, which has a camera hole like this. So I know this is a pretty specific thing that you may not have the same iPad, so I don't know. I don't know how many people enter this. But that does mean if you do have this iPad, 5th gen 12.9, based on math, my new channel not having a lot of views, and the fact that you need to have this specific iPad, I feel like your chances are pretty good. So I would enter. Anyway, I hope you found this useful, and I hope you make lots of fun patterns. If you do, definitely post them in the comments so that I can check them out. Also, if you're not already subscribed, you should subscribe because I'm committed to posting new videos each week. As you can see, I even made one this week with my voice this annoying, so future videos will, hopefully sound normal. I'll have a normal voice. It's not a lot better, but it's better. It's more consistent, I would say. Usually doesn't sound like I'm crying, unless I'm crying. Every time I say or mention that I did something in Adobe Fresco, there's usually a few people that say, hey, do you like Fresco better than Procreate, or why do you use Fresco instead of Procreate? And I say, I do like Fresco better than Procreate, and it's funny you ask, because I actually have a long, detailed video explaining the differences between the two apps and why I prefer Adobe Fresco and think it's the better app for the professional illustrator. So, I think this is a little YouTuber milestone for me. I'm going to do a point over here. You can check out that video over here. Is this how you do it? Yeah, right here. Check out that video. And while you're at it, maybe subscribe over here. Or you can subscribe down here on this little watermark thing that I made, if it's actually in the video. If not, I'm just pointing to nothing. Good talk. Hey, I know my videos get a little long sometimes, so I'm curious how many of you guys are super hardcore. If you've made it this far, why don't you leave an emoji in the comments that only we know about. How about the wizard? Leave me a wizard. Drop me a whiz.
Gross.
That's weird. Thanks for watching this.